my name is Susie and today I'm playing Chocolatier. I'd like to share with you a really simple recipe to make something that is super decadent. It only requires 2 ingredients and it's diabetic friendly. And I'm talking about chocolate truffles, also known as BonBons. And at this time of the year, which is February, I thought it'd be fun to decorate our truffles according to our next holiday, which is Valentine's. As a third ingredient and as an option, you can flavor your truffles with whatever liqueur of your choice. And you're going to flavor it with about 1 teaspoon of liqueur. So I'm going to flavor mine with some liqueurs. And also you can roll your truffles in different toppings of your choice. And I'm going to show you some examples of how you can top these off and make them really pretty for Valentine's or any time of the year. So our first job is to shred the chocolate or chop it up finely. Now I'm using 70% chocolate, the nicest chocolate that I could find. Obviously the better the chocolate, the better your truffles are going to be. And I've just chopped it up and I did weigh it so it's exactly 8 ounces. And I've got my 1 cup of whipping cream, which I'm going to heat up on my stove over medium until I bring it to a bubble. And I'm going to pour my hot whipping cream directly over the chocolate to melt it. And that's it. That is going to be our ganache, and then we're going to set it off to the side to sit. As I said, this is 8 ounces of chocolate. For this, you're going to get about 30 truffles. But I don't want all 30 truffles tasting the same. I want to split up the batch into 15 and 15. So I'm going to add 2 different liqueurs. And for that, I've just got 2 bowls ready so that I can separate my ganache and add the flavorings at the end. So I'm just going to go to the stove and I'm going to heat this up until it starts to bubble. So it's been about a minute and the whipped cream is hot and bubbling. So I'm going to turn off the stove. So our whipped cream is hot and I'm going to pour all of my chocolate into my bowl. And then I'm going to pour Then you're going to pour your whipped cream directly over the chocolate. You're going to cover it with a piece of saran, and this will hold in the heat while this melts. And you're just going to let it sit for about a minute or 2. Now I've watched a lot of different professional bakers, pastry chefs, who have made these chocolates, and this is a common recipe, but I picked up a couple of tips from all different chefs. And one of the tips that I picked up was adding this piece of cellophane. So our chocolate has melted just with the heat of that whipped cream, and we're just going to fold it in until it is fully combined. It is beautiful and silky smooth. It is all melted, and now I'm going to divide this equally between the 2. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of orange liqueur to that batch and 1 teaspoon of cherry liqueur to that batch. And then you just want to stir to combine. So I'm just going to cover this with a little bit of cellophane. And I'm going to mark them so that I know which one is cherry, which one is orange. And I'm just going to set this to the side until let it cool down completely. We're going to refrigerate it for a couple of hours until it is 100% firm. If you don't want to use this method, you can also let it sit overnight and it will firm up. I've also made a batch that way, so we'll be able to compare the taste of making it the same day or waiting the 24 hours. So let me put this off to the side and I'll get back once it's firm. So it's been a couple of hours and I've got my ganache that I let sit overnight, and then I've got the ganache that I cooled down in the refrigerator. The one that just came out of the fridge that I cooled down is very firm, whereas the one that I left out for 24 hours does have a certain give to it, so that it is softer than the one that was in the refrigerator. So all we want to do, and this is really messy, is you want to take a melon baller or a teaspoon, but I'm just using a melon baller because I like the size. And we're just going to, you just want to roll. So you just want to roll and we have to pry it out. Oh, it's really nice and thick. And then you have to move quickly because almost as soon as it hits your hand, it starts to melt. So just using my hands, you can create a little heart, which is what I did. You have to wash your hands a couple of times before you do this. So once you've got all your little truffle balls, now is the fun part. While the ganache is still fairly soft, this is the time to roll it in all your different decorations. And I've got, I've made some candied tangerine peel. And if you want to learn how to do that, you can watch the video on orange peels. This is very easy to make. And I'm going to use some orange peel. I'm going to use some crushed nuts. And I'm going to use, this is just unsweetened coconut, which I've dyed with a little bit of food coloring to turn it into these pink coconut flakes. Pink. You can roll it up and then you get this perfect little pink coconut ball. And some I will do with the nuts. And I'm using cashews. They're little crystallized flakes that are for cake decorating. So in this case, I made some little hearts by simply taking the truffle after it's firmed up a little bit and just created a strawberry shape like this. And then you just want to flatten it and give it a little indent and create your own, you can create your own little heart. And then to that, I just added some of these pretty little red foil. And because the ganache is still soft, the foil does stick to it. So you get this pretty little heart. So another variation that I did was creating just a little metallic heart on the truffle. So all I did is I took my truffle and I took a tiny piece of paper and folded it in half and just cut out a little heart stencil. And then with the stencil, I just pressed it into place. And I've got, again, this iridescent powder, which is from cake decorating. And I just took a tiny little brush with a tiny little brush. I just really pushed the powder in until I felt that there was enough coverage. And then a little trick, before you remove this, blow off the extra dust. Blow off the extra dust, and then when you remove your stencil, you get a perfect little heart. And that is really, really sweet. And that's all you do if you want to use the truffles just the way they are with just the ganache. So you would put these in the fridge and you would have to keep these refrigerated and take them out when you're ready to serve. But another way to do it is to dip them in melted chocolate, and those look beautiful as well. So let me get my melted chocolate. So now that we've rolled out our truffles and shaped them into some little hearts, I'm just gonna put them in the fridge to set and to really cool down before I dip them in the melted chocolate. So for the melted chocolate, to dip our truffles in. We're going to use 8 ounces of dark chocolate, and I'm using 70% chocolate. And you're going to want to use 1 tablespoon of coconut oil and the coconut oil is just going to really smooth out that chocolate. It's going to make it shiny, and it's going to make it a little bit runnier, which is easier for dipping. Then we're going to put this over a double boiler, and we're going to melt it very gently. Now the water I've just got simmering, you should only have about 1 inch at the bottom of a small pot. The bowl should never touch the water. All we're doing is steaming the bowl to heat it up, to melt the chocolate very gently. And like I said, there's only about 1 inch of water, and you can see that the bowl will never come in contact with the water. And by the way, if you are melting chocolate and you drop a drop of water into the melted chocolate, it will seize. So you want to make sure that your chocolate stays in your bowl and you do not at any time drop any kind of water or liquid into it. You have to add the coconut oil at the beginning of the process. You can't add it at the end. And again, you want to use a spatula or something just to move the chocolate around, but you do not want to introduce air or whisk it. So all I've done is I've grabbed a cookie sheet and I've just lined it with some parchment paper, which is going to make it easier to collect those chocolate drippings. So I've got a rack, and we are going to dip the truffles, and then we're going to set them on the rack. The rack will allow them to drip right through, and then I can collect all that chocolate that's on my parchment and save it for next time. And I'm going to keep my pot of water here off to the side, because if my chocolate starts to stiffen up, I could just set it right on top and just keep it nice and melted. As a matter of fact, I think I'll leave it on there because it's not too hot. So now the trick here is dipping the chocolate. So there's a number of tools that you can buy or that the professionals use, and I don't have any of them, but I did watch the professionals using a tool that looks a lot like this. This is just my skewer. So let's see how it works out. So I've got a little fork. This is good because your truffle sits in a little hole. Actually, it works really, really well. We'll try a heart. And the chocolate is really, really nice and smooth. Really beautiful, shiny finish once it's done. And it will result in a nice chocolate finish. Whoa. That one is a broken heart. Well, you have some of those at Valentine's too. We'll keep it. If you want to add something to the top of the truffles, this is really the time to do it while the chocolate is still soft, so that your topper will adhere to it. And on this one, I'm going to add a piece of tangerine peel. Those were actually the truffles that we made with the Grand Marnier or the triple sec. And so it's great when the chocolate hasn't set yet, because you can get anything to adhere to it. And this other heart, I'm going to just fill it with my pink coconut. And then another fantastic topping that really requires no artistic touch, and that is just adding a few grains of, and this is fleur de sel, a few grains of sea salt. So now it's time for the taste test. These are the truffles that I made and let sit for 24 hours. Wow. rich and luxurious in your mouth. It's a beautiful, beautiful truffle. Now we're gonna taste the truffle that I let sit in the refrigerator for only a few hours until it's set. Hold on. I really can't taste the difference. And I can taste a little hint of the orange liqueur in this one. And I actually used Frangelico, which is a hazelnut liqueur in this one. And that was very nice as well. But it's only a very mild, it's a very, very mild flavor difference. I think the difference in flavor is really going to depend on what you use as your topper. So the coconut, the crushed cashews, the orange zest, and anything else that you might add on top of it, that is what's going to be the defining flavor for your truffles. Love chocolate. You gotta try these. They're fantastic and they're diabetic friendly. So it doesn't get better than that. So if you try this recipe and you like it, I hope you share it. And if you want to see more content, I hope you subscribe. Happy bonbon making and happy bonbon eating. Enjoy!